and welcome back to Mark My Words Football Podcast with Rob
and Scott.
And after an incredibly exciting Super Bowl full of ups and downs, comebacks and leads, emotions and confusion, we sit here now and try to unpack what was a very, very historic and exciting Super Bowl for you guys. So, Scott, what did you think of this 25-24 victory of the Kansas City Chiefs over the 49ers?
What did I think? Well, I think I've got quite a page of notes here, so it depends on what thought you'd like to start with.
Initial impressions, I guess.
So, initial impressions. I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs defense would have been the strongest asset of their team throughout the season, and it really came through for them tonight, or for this game. It really won it for them. Their offense, I think, struggled quite a bit throughout this game. I mean, they went quite a significant amount of time without scoring points, and their defense was really what held them in there. The Niners were able to move the ball fairly well on offense for a lot of times, but ended up with nothing to show for it quite often. But the Chiefs really being able to dial up that blitz was something that really won the game. And if you want to tap into something specific right away, I'd say for me, the play of the game for the Chiefs was right around that 2-minute warning with that corner blitz by Trent McDuffie, which is perfectly timed and schemed up. Like, Purdy never had a chance there. He never saw him coming. And I think that's really one of the biggest reasons they won that game.
Yeah, 100%. And I thought you were going to bring up that play. That was a first of all, gutsy call by Spagnuolo. I mean, he's one of the highest rated blitzing coordinators in the league. Blitzes a ton and gets a lot of good results from it. And blitzing in that spot, 3rd and 4, game on the line. 49ers get that. The game's likely over. And
you could have just ran the ball out.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so gutsy. And Purdy was good against the blitz. In this game, Purdy went 12 of 19 for 131 yards and a touchdown, only getting sacked once against the blitz in this game. So to do that was really risky because Purdy kind of was burning them on the blitz throughout this game. But McDuffie on that just incredible pass breakup would just really kind of set the stage for the Chiefs comeback. And I agree, the Chiefs defense was very, very good for this game. You had them in the first half, giving up a lot of yards, but able to capitalize on some of the 49ers miscues and shut them out in the first quarter, and then held them to a reasonable amount of points and yardage from there on out. I mean, against the 49ers, best offense in the league, you can only do so much. But the Chiefs defense absolutely won them this game, getting a ton of pressure on Brock Purdy. The Chiefs pressured Purdy on 50% of his dropbacks in the second half. Think about that. 50% of the time he dropped back in the second half, he was pressured. So absolutely, the Chiefs defense won them this game. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Mahomes and that offense coming through in the clutch when it mattered most. And Mahomes putting on what I think has been his best performance yet in these playoffs and the best performance he's had in the Super Bowl.
I think I would disagree with that, but I want to go back to something real quick because you're saying about Purdy being good against that. I feel like I disagree with that point as well because he only had 4.5 yards per attempt. Although he completed a lot of passes, they weren't good.
That's what you do against the blitz, though. I mean, you only have so much time to get it out.
Well, I think it still clues in the blitz was working because they weren't breaking those plays. Because often when you blitz, you leave yourself open for plays further down the field, and that didn't happen either. So showing that their coverage was also good in that play. So even if they were completing, it was still working. And per Next Gen stats, the Chiefs ended up with unblocked rushers on 9 plays, and all of those plays were blitzes.
Yeah, I that was a big problem. I did see now Purdy. I thought he played pretty well. I didn't think he cost them the game or anything like that. But some of the things that I saw from him, I think you brought up a really good point here with the 9 times that the Chiefs went unblocked, had a blocker. That's kind of on Purdy. At that point, there's not much offensive coordinator can do. You call the original, Shanahan calls the original play. You get out there, Purdy, you got to look at the defense, and now you have to then adjust to what you see. It's not on the offensive coordinator at that point. So I think he needed to do a much better job in doing that throughout the game, and certainly at that last play.
Yeah. Even for the 49ers, it seems like execution was really sank the ship for them. I mean, like we said, they were moving the ball the majority of the game, but they just ended up just kind of steaming out eventually. I mean, and you can really point to being 3 of 14 on third downs. That's significant. And probably the other most significant thing I think there was, they got 0 points off of 2 turnovers, and then that being coupled with a blocked extra point, and there's your game. But I mean, we can transition to what you were saying about the Chiefs too, because I think that they looked like they did on Christmas Day for most of the game. Like they weren't able to do much. What finally sparked them was that muffed punt where it bounced off the player, and they got a one-play touchdown drive. And after that, like they were just absolutely lights out. And like they looked unstoppable those last two drives, where they're driving for a field goal and then for the win in overtime.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying like this game was neck and neck. People probably would have give the edge to the 49ers until that muff punt hadn't happened. And people are like, that was such a fluky thing. Chiefs didn't really deserve it. It's like, I mean, I'm a big believer in like, working hard gets you, that luck. Good luck happens when you work for it. So I think that, you need some of those plays to win at this stage. And so I don't think it was like a fluky thing at all. And the
no,
Chiefs,
I don't either.
The Chiefs, yeah, like you said, the 49ers failed to capitalize on their opportunities, and the Chiefs capitalized on the ones that they got. And to me, like the big thing was in the first quarter, and I said, before this game started, like this game would likely kind of be decided in the first half. When you looked at the first quarter, that was the 49ers quarter to own. They had 125 yards, and the Chiefs only had 16, and yet the score after it was 0-0. And then you look at the third quarter, this was the Chiefs half. Chiefs had 57 yards, 49ers had 1 yard in the third quarter, and the Chiefs outscored them 10-0. So the third quarter versus the first quarter difference, to me, it just highlights that, hey, look, the Chiefs, when they were rolling, they capitalized, and the 49ers did not.
Yeah, that's very true. And like even to that overtime drive where the 49ers get all the way down to the 5 and kick a field goal.
Yeah, can't do that.
They did have their opportunity. They got Kansas City to 4th down, and they couldn't get the stop. So like it's like they had their chance. Like that was Super Bowl on the line. But I think going to that overtime, there's some really interesting conversations or questions to be asked about that. So I have an interesting question for you. What do you think about Kyle Shanahan's decision to take the ball first in overtime?
Well, when Fred Warner said, "Oh, hey, we want the ball," like I was like, "That's a mistake." Now I'm one of these people that it's like not always a mistake. Generally, in regular overtime, people always kick it off, so you never know if you're going to get the ball back. Even then, I think sometimes you do want to take it in certain contexts, such as if it's a lower scoring game. But in this one, I wasn't the biggest fan of the decision just based on how the game was going. But I also understood it. It's like we want to go down there and we want to put the pressure on the Chiefs. We want to score a touchdown. But I think if you get the ball, you have to score a touchdown. Like you can't leave Mahomes, with a field goal. Like if you're in that position, especially at the 5, like man, you just got to go for the touchdown at that point. So to me, like the decision to take the ball, it is what it is. I wouldn't have done it, but I don't hate it. But then doing that, to me, you have to go for that touchdown.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things in here. The reason why I would say I wouldn't hate it was because that defense was just coming off a tiring drive there while Kansas City drive for that field goal. So maybe it's not the greatest opportunity to put them out right away. So I think that's really what saved it there. But I think we knew that, and Andy Reid said it himself afterwards, or at least somebody did, that they were going to go for 2 either way, like if the Niners had scored a touchdown. So the Chiefs knew like they were going to do whatever it took to win either way. So let's say for like all else being equal, would Andy Reid have gone for that 4th down in their own end if that was the first possession? I would say probably.
I don't know.
But maybe not.
I don't think he would have. I mean, in that spot, it's like now if we're talking Dan Campbell and the Lions, I think he probably would have gone for it. But I don't know. I think, the Chiefs defense, it got him to this place, and you don't want to see it just end. Because, like, if you turn it over in your own territory, that's pretty much it. Like, field goal wins the game. So, I don't know. I said I didn't hate the call by Shanahan, but I really feel like you should have took it. You should have kicked it, rather, just to see what the other team does. Like, if the Chiefs score a touchdown, now you have some options. Like, you can score a touchdown and tie it up, or you can score a touchdown and go for 2. Like it just when you kick it off to them, the ball is in their court to see, and then you get to see how they played it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the whole thing is that like you know what you need to win, which is a huge thing. Like Shanahan's phrasing of it was like has a little bit of logic to it, I guess. It's like because they wanted the ball third, but that's assuming that they're going to tie you.
Yeah.
Like that's a big assumption. So like you would have to know that you go score a touchdown and go for two, or that you both score field goals, or you like however that is. So you have to assume that they're going to tie the game, and they flat out said they wouldn't have if they had the choice.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the only time where you ever want to take the ball in overtime is if it's like a situation where it's a defensive game, or you really trust your defense in this moment, because anything other than that, it's way too risky, and you're just showing your cards essentially, and then giving it to the other team to respond to that however they want to. So I'm generally, the more and more I talk about it, the more and I actually start to hate that decision by Shanahan. And even worse is like the fact that many of his players didn't understand the rules in overtime. I mean, first of all, if you're the players, like you're a professional, you should know the rules, but Shanahan, like, you got to go over the rules with your guys. I mean, come on, the Chiefs and Andy Reid, Travis Kelce after the game told us that, hey, we went over this many times throughout the season and the playoffs. And Shanahan not doing that, I think, just really contrasts the difference in this coaching staff between Reid and Shanahan. And that's why Reid has ended up on the winning end of 3 Super Bowls, and Shanahan has ended up on the losing end of 3, in my opinion.
That's certainly a part of it. But something else I think for this KC offense, too, being a little bit different as it's been in previous years, they did have 6 guys with 3+ catches and 7 with 20+ yards. So although there's like not really a workhorse in this offense, or at least not in this game, they were spread it out through several different weapons. And I mean, that's something that the Niners have kind of struggled with, especially with their better players.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs in this game, and what do we say? Like, the receivers just this playoff run have definitely stepped up a lot. When you look at Valdez-Scantling, and Rashee Rice just kind of been solid all year. But in this game, it was Mecole Hardman who had a very crucial drop in the playoffs a couple weeks ago. And in this game, of course, having the game-winning touchdown and having some really nice plays, Mahomes is really doing a good job of spreading the ball around. And the 49ers, again, very weird. Like, George Kittle, not really a factor at all in this game, which is just ridiculous. I mean, this is like one of your best players. Like, how are you not getting him involved? And, I love, that we got to see Juwan Jennings make some great plays, but like, really? Like, you're not giving it to Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk more, and George Kittle only getting 2 catches? Like, come on.
Right.
And that was just extremely frustrating to see.
Yeah, like especially like to Samuel, like if you saw the amount of targets he had, like just insane. 11 targets and only 3 receptions. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, and he's such a dual threat that you can use him running, passing, throwing, whatever you want. Like, just to not do that in this game, it's like, man, like, you're supposed to. This is the Super Bowl. You're not saving any play. Like, everything is on the table for you, and this is what you come up with. Like, not impressed by the offensive play calling in this one from Shanahan.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
But Mahomes, though, I think he really just absolutely impressed. I mean, throwing for 333 yards with, 34 for 46 completion attempts. That is really, really good. Also, 2 touchdowns. Did have a pick, which kind of ruined his streak there. In the last 2 playoff runs, in the last 2 seasons, that was his only pick in the last 2 playoff runs. This is absolutely insane. Just the consistency he's been able to dole out here, and him winning the MVP, I think he deserved it. Some secondary guys who I thought played really well. Nick Bosa on the 49ers, like, seemed like every play he was chasing around Mahomes, just barely not being able to get there. But man, he must have been like gassed after that one. I thought he was really good. And obviously Chris Jones playing very good as well. But Mahomes, I think, deserved this MVP for sure. I don't know what you think.
I don't know about that. I in my opinion, I think it maybe should have been to a defensive player, because Mahomes didn't keep them in the game for the first part of it. It was really the defense, I think, that brought home this game. Mahomes was the one that ended it for sure, but I would place the winning of this game more on the defense. And I don't know that I could particularly name a good one. Like Chris Jones, to my eye, would be certainly one, or maybe even L'Jarius Sneed, who was great.
Yeah. Maybe McDuffie, especially for that last, third down play. He had a great game as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I love Mahomes for MVP on this one.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of. I mean, there's probably been a lot of Super Bowls where we could say that, where the quarterback, they didn't have maybe like the greatest game of all time, but what are you going to do? I mean, like the quarterback is the leader of the team. They get blamed if you lose. They get credit if you win. And so, like, this is not an absurd MVP by Mahomes. I think we've seen worse stat lines that have won it. I was just,
Oh, certainly.
yeah. So I wasn't like outraged that he won this one.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I wouldn't be either. But I just think that a defensive player would have been a better choice. But even though I don't even know that I would have a great choice.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. Like,
without really diving into the film or something.
But I understand like your point. Like the Mahomes MVP, like it kind of misconstrues like the fabric of the game. Like this was a defensively won game by the Chiefs, and like by saying, "Oh, Mahomes is the MVP," it kind of makes it feel like we're not giving the defense its due credit.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right.
And so that was the one of the more exciting Super Bowls. I think now we've had two in a row that were really, really exciting. Of course, Chiefs prevailing in both of them, and now you look at the Chiefs, and this is an incredible dynasty. I think it's safe to say it's a full-on dynasty at this point. Rivaling even the Patriots one from 2014 to 2018. 5 conference championship appearances, 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins for each of those teams. So we'll see if the Chiefs are able to three-peat next year. And for the Niners, I mean, it looks dismal, but also you going back to a weaker conference in the NFC. Question for you, out of these two teams, which one do you think has a better shot to be back in this game next year?
Man, that's a really good question. But I think I would have to say the 49ers for a couple of reasons. Like, number one, due to the fact that you said like the NFC is a bit of a weaker conference overall. And number two, I think that the 49ers have a little bit more talent than the Chiefs. I mean, there's no doubting that the Chiefs are great, but I think that they just have a little bit more of a gauntlet in the AFC. And I think one of these times it's bound that somebody's going to trip them up, whether it's Baltimore, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Houston. Like, there's plenty of options there that could happen. Whereas in the NFC, I just feel like there's just not quite as much of that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it seems kind of like slanderous to say that, after the Chiefs' big day and winning their 3rd Super Bowl with Mahomes, but I would agree. And I don't think the Chiefs can get back to this game with these same receivers. Like, I know that they were able to overcome it this time, but man, I think you really need to add someone there. Whereas the 49ers, they have everything they need already. And I think Purdy will get even better next year, or I hope he will. So, yeah, I would agree with that, 49ers.
Well, I think to your point, I think that probably made it more impressive for the Chiefs to do it this year when like everyone was down on them, and they made it through the gauntlet. They made it through being underdogs on the road multiple times through the AFC playoffs, and like still like pretty smoothly got out. Like they handily won in Baltimore. They destroyed the Dolphins. I mean, Buffalo was a close game, but they didn't end up sweating it out horribly at the end.
Yeah, and that's what makes like the Mahomes thing very impressive, because like he was dealing with like very suboptimal receivers. Like I just think about like, if this was like Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers or anyone else, like, and if they lose in the playoffs, like so many years where Rodgers lost, and it was always something we blamed it on, like, oh, his receivers aren't good. All he has is like one guy, Devontae Adams, like, or the defense wasn't great this year. Like, it's always something, and we blame it on. And yet Mahomes is like, whatever, give me whoever we got. Like, I'm going to go win a Super Bowl. And it's like, obviously, it's not just him. There's a lot of people, a lot of talent, but it seems like he had all the excuses. Like, he literally had one of the worst receiving corps in the league, and yet didn't matter. Still came out on top. So it's just very impressive Super Bowl run.
For sure.
All right, and it is from there that we will transition to the next segment, the Clown of the Week for the Super Bowl.
Everybody loves a good clown, and now it's time to meet the NFL's Clown of the Week for this week. And this week, the Clown of the Week in the NFL is Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. So post-game, after his Super Bowl win, Patrick Mahomes delivered some interesting quotes about the overtime rules, saying, we changed the rules so we can execute them both ways. I don't know how they're going to change them this time. Like, basically referring to, the rules were changed because of them, because they win. Well, maybe you're forgetting a little thing that happened before when the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes lost to the New England Patriots in the same way that Buffalo lost to the Chiefs. And you know who took that proposal to the proposal committee? The Chiefs. So don't act like it came about just because you won. You were literally the ones that took it to the rule committee before. And just act like, oh, what rule are they gonna change this time? Like, literally nobody is saying that. Nobody thinks that. Like, just get off of your high horse here and just remember a little bit of the past here, okay? Patrick Mahomes, you were the clown of the week for that comment.
And from there, we will transition to our bets for the Super Bowl. So we're doing a recap of the bets we made. And Scott, why don't you tell the folks how you did on your bets?
Yeah, so not too great for me. On my parlay, I did hit with the under, but did not hit San Francisco on the money line or on the spread at -2.5. Also did not hit either of my extra bets here with George Kittle on the over 3.5. He went under, and Deebo Samuel went under 16.5 rushing yards. So overall, not a very good betting Super Bowl for me. How did things go for you, Rob?
Well, I missed on most of the bets that I made, but I did come out with a positive monetary number, so that is good. But let's recap it here. So the parlay that I had, Marquez Valdes-Scantling over 50 yards was a miss. Brock Purdy over 13.5 on the rushing yards was a narrow miss as he had 12. And Kelsey, anytime touchdown scorer, was also a miss. So, just a big doozy there on the parlay. And my two other little side bets here, either quarterback for a 50-plus pass completion. That hit when Mahomes hit a 50-yarder to Hardman. And I also had 49ers with 0 points in the fourth quarter. That did not hit as they scored 9. By the way, the highest the Chiefs have allowed in about 9 games. So did not hit on those. But with that quarterback 50-plus, that gave me a positive number for the Super Bowl.
Well, at least there is that.
Yeah, at least there is that. So that concludes my betting season on the year. No reason to bet anymore after that one. And speaking of the year, we now do some reflecting on what was a very, very exciting 2023-2024 NFL football season. And we go now into the recap of that.
So I'll give everybody a quick reminder of how our season predictions point system works. So we start the season by going through each game individually through a simulator and picking the results of each game to get some correct standings for the end of the year. And you're going to get points based off your team records. Correctly predicting a team's record is worth 15 points. If you're 1 game off, it's worth 10 points. 2 games off is 5 points. And 3 games off is 2 points. Anything more than 3 is 0 points. We also do our NFL awards winners. If you correctly predict the award winner, that's worth 10 points. And if your award winner is nominated but does not win, that's worth 5. And where you able to get some big time points and catch up is in the playoffs, as you can get 5, 10, or 15 points for your team advancing to the corresponding round, as well as a bonus 15 points if you are able to correctly predict a matchup. So with all of that being said, we will start to get into our standings. So let's start off right at the top of my page here, where we had the AFC East. Where in the AFC East, I had 30 points, and Rob had 15. And this year, we had the Buffalo Bills going 11-6, the Miami Dolphins going 11-6, the New York Jets at 7-10, and the New England Patriots at 4-13.
Yeah, so this division really got the best of me here. In Monday Night Football, after Rodgers going out there on the field, waving the American flag, everything looked amazing for the Jets. I had them going 12-5 to start the year, and after seeing him going out with that American flag, I was like, yes, this is happening. And then it wasn't. 4 plays later, that was over. And so we had Jets going 7-10, not able to really be of impact in this division. And the Bills looking like they would obviously maybe miss the playoffs, certainly not win the division, but roaring back, take over the Miami Dolphins. and conquer the AFC East once more, I think was a pretty big surprise to me. What did you think about this division this year? Pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was a good division this year. I think Miami was kind of about what I thought they would be, maybe slightly better. The Bills, I probably predicted them a little too high, being a homer and all, But I was very happy that I was quite close with the New England Patriots finally, as I believe I'd predicted them around the same record last year with 5 wins.
Yeah, I this year I had them at 9-8. It doesn't look so good now. I also the Dolphins like at 8-9, just because I had some concerns about Tua's health and how he would look this year, how those concussions impacted him and his confidence. But Dolphins proved to be pretty explosive on offense, but just didn't have the grind and the grit to get through the latter portion of the season. And going forward next year, I really look forward to see what the Jets are able to do finally, hopefully with Rodgers going in there for a full season, and how the Bills are able to respond after a bit of a tumultuous year.
For sure. And next up, we'll head on to the AFC West, where I had 10 points and Rob had 20. And in that division, you had the Chiefs at 11-6, the Raiders at 8-9, the Broncos at 8-9, and the Chargers at 5-12.
Yeah, this one was again a little bit surprising here. The Chiefs really struggling. I thought they would get the number one seed fairly easily in the AFC, and I also did not see the Chargers just plummeting that low to 5-12. I thought I was a little lower on them than some people were this year, just because Brandon Staley had me on guard, but I never thought 5-12 for them.
Yeah, for sure. I was pretty high on them, so obviously getting 0 points for both of us after that, after a very disappointing season for them. And I also lost on some points with the Raiders, as I thought they would be quite a bit worse than 8-9.
Yeah, and the Broncos, coming in there at the end, really to save my prediction of them, because it looked like they were going to be a bottom feeder. I had them at 7-10. They roared back and were able to get to 8-9. But for a while there, it looked like, man, Russell Wilson is beyond saving, even with Sean Payton there. And who knows what's going to happen going forward if he's still going to be the starter. I would highly doubt it. But definitely a division that surprised me in a lot of ways, although the Chiefs did end up atop of it, which helped my predictions a little bit there.
For sure. And after that, we'll go on to the AFC North, where in that division, I had 42 points and Rob had 15. And in that division, we had Baltimore going 13-4, Cleveland 11-6, Pittsburgh at 10-7, and Cincinnati at 9-8.
Yeah, this one I think we could all safely say it was the most interesting in the NFL. It was the topic of conversation almost every single week in the NFL, and just a lot of controversy and differing opinions. I think we still disagree on the talent level and the performance of a lot of these teams even today.
Yeah, but I think pretty luckily for me, I got two teams record perfect, with the Ravens and Browns being right. And also only one game off for the Steelers. So, yeah, definitely to my quite good score for this round. My best division overall.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head with this one. The Ravens was I thought it was a very bold prediction to start the year. I had them finishing last in their division at 8-9. And who knows, how close that would have came to fruition. I don't think they would have finished. Actually, I can't say. I do think they would have finished last, but they did not. They were definitely better than I thought they're going to be. And you really nailed this one. Joe Burrow, though, that was definitely a big X factor. I think the Bengals probably would have been better off. I mean, if he had stayed in there, who knows how that would have played out. But definitely, I think this was a big win on your part for this division.
Yeah. And after that, we'll go into a division that we didn't do so hot in the AFC South. And in that division, I had 12 points and Rob with a measly 2.
Yeah. Jaguars saving my butt on this one from being a 0 like I had last year in the AFC West, getting me my 2 points there. I thought the Jaguars are going to be a really good team this year. I obviously had, Lawrence doing some really good things. I thought the Jaguars could make a deep playoff run. Obviously, not the case. Titans, I also thought were going to be quite good, and Texans and Colts, I thought were going to be bottom feeders. And Texans and Colts really just shocked the world, especially the Texans.
Yeah, Texans at 10-7, Jags at 9-8, Colts at 9-8, and Titans at 6-11 for this division.
Very surprising there.
Yeah, like definitely, like this was a very surprising division, and the NFL, yeah, nobody seeing Houston or Indy as good as they were, and then Jacksonville, I think, falling quite short of expectations,
Yeah,
at
and this
least
should
for
be a
us.
this should be a very tumultuous division next year. We have a lot of unknowns. Like how are the Jaguars going to respond? What was 2 years ago who they really are, or was last year who they really are? That's going to be interesting. The Texans and CJ Stroud, can they keep it up with a bit of lackluster talent? And then what does Anthony Richardson look like? I mean, he looked pretty decent, pretty good actually when he was in there. So, and obviously the Titans, they're probably just going to be garbage next year. But Jags, Texans, and Colts, it's going to be very interesting to see them duke it out next season
This could be a really fun division going forward.
for sure.
And after that, we'll head into the NFC, where in the NFC East, I had 37 points and Rob had 45, doing quite well with that division. And the standings for that division, we had the Cowboys at 12-5, Eagles at 11-6, Giants at 6-11, and Commanders at 4-13. And yeah, Rob doing very well, correctly predicting both the Cowboys and Eagles records.
Yeah, this one was, I think, my best division, I think, without a doubt, this season. Like you said, getting the record of the Cowboys and the Eagles exactly correct and pretty close on the Giants, only 2 games off and 1 game off on the Commanders. So I just kind of saw this division for what it was. And the Eagles scared me after they got off to a really hot start, but that historic collapse at the end made this a very good division for me.
Yeah, I think honestly, I might have underestimated how good the Cowboys would be in the regular season, and probably overestimated Philly a little bit. I mean, even I had my reservations about what I picked for Philly. I didn't like it when I first done it. And as for the Giants, I think we both did pretty well for them overall. As I think we both predicted they would drop off this season, and Commanders, they're just kind of garbo funk.
Yeah, but Sam Howell definitely brought some excitement, showing us he's a top tier elite Hall of Famer quarterback there.
Whatever helps you sleep at night. And after that, we can head over to the NFC West, where I had 30 points and Rob had 30 points. And in that division, we had the 49ers at 12-5, the Rams at 10-7, Seahawks at 9-8, and Cardinals at 4-13.
Yeah, this one I had the Niners correctly predicted at 12-5, but the rest of the division threw me off a little bit. Had no idea the Rams were going to come out and play like they did. Should have saw that coming. Only 2 years removed from being the Super Bowl champs, and Rams, I think, definitely the biggest surprise. I'm really was impressed by what they were able to do with Puka Nacua just showing out, and that defense of young players really coming to play this season. Great job by McVay coaching those guys up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, neither of us got any points with the Rams, but I ended up being close enough with both Seattle and Arizona to get us some points. Because 30 is not a terrible score.
Yeah, not at all. And with Seattle, getting rid of Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, I just don't think he's going to be able to be the guy to put them over the edge here. Going to be interesting to see how they do going forward. And same with the Cardinals. Do we really believe in Kyler Murray still? I'm not so sure about that.
Right. And then after that, we can head over to the NFC North, where I had 40 points and Rob had 35. And in that division, there was Detroit at 12-5, Green Bay at 9-8, Minnesota at 7-10, and Chicago at 7-10.
Yeah, I mean, I was fairly close on this one, getting the order of the teams correct, but slightly off on each of their records. Green Bay and Detroit, I thought it was going to be a closer battle than it ended up being. I thought they're going to be neck and neck all year for that division title. I think that's what the case is going to be going into next year. They're going to be very neck and neck. And the Vikings, it was a travesty when Kirk Cousins got hurt because I thought they could have done quite a bit of damage with how they were coming on. But overall, I think we both did fairly well in this division.
Yeah, I was really happy with because I think this went actually quite similar to how I was thinking it would go, with Detroit winning that division and Green Bay kind of being pesky around that wild card spot, and Chicago being much lower than people had thought. I mean, it feels like years ago now, but going into this season, people were projecting Chicago really high.
Yes, that was ridiculous, and I think we both knew that this is ridiculous. I mean, Fields was like a top 5 fantasy quarterback in a lot of people's mock drafts. The Bears were the sneaky, they're going to win the North, definitely getting in the wild card. No, they're not. They're still the Bears, and they're still not good.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll finish up with the team records in the NFC South, where I had 15 points and Rob had 40. And in that division, we had the Buccaneers at 9-8, the Saints at 9-8, the Falcons at 7-10, and the Panthers at 2-15.
Yeah, so in this one, I had the Saints winning the division at 9-8, and then although they achieved that record, the Bucks were just a little bit better than them, also having 9-8 and giving some tiebreakers there. I think I saw I predicted this one fairly accurately. I saw the fabric of all the teams and just how they would look, I think, pretty well. Nobody really surprised me. The only thing that was the difference, I think, was Baker Mayfield was just better than I thought he was going to be this year, point blank, and that's what pushed the Bucks over the Saints.
Yeah, and I think for me, this is my division of overestimations for sure. Having the Falcons at 11-6 and the Panthers at 8-9. Whew, maybe those were awful picks.
Yeah, hey, it might happen next year.
Maybe. Then after that, we do have our NFL awards for this one. So in our NFL awards, for MVP, I was able to correctly predict that, having Lamar Jackson as my MVP preseason. So
nice.
Pretty happy with that one.
Yeah, I had Trevor Lawrence at the MVP for this one, and I thought the Jags were just going to be a lot better than they were. Bringing in Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk. I also really liked Ingram on there. I thought they would have a nice explosive offense. Obviously, did not pan out, but Lamar Jackson MVP, very good pick by you on there. The Ravens, you were just all over them this year. It looked like you just really predicted them quite accurately this season.
I did. Then offensive MVP, I was in a similar thought with you, and I had Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, for that one I had Nick Chubb, and he was balling out, like he normally does, but it was impossible to say whether he would have had a decent chance at it because obviously that devastating knee injury.
Then at Defensive Player of the Year, I had Micah Parsons getting me some nomination points there.
Yeah, I did as well. Faltered out towards the end of the year, but looked like he had a shot there.
Yeah. And then Offensive Rookie of the Year, I had Bryce Young, which could have been further from the truth.
Oh, that's not a great one there. I had Jahmyr Gibbs for the Detroit Lions, and he just wasn't a big enough part of the offense. Did play some good football this year, but just wasn't the horse that I thought he was going to be.
And then Defensive Rookie of the Year, I had Will Anderson getting that one correct.
Yes, very good one there on the Texans. Jalen Carter, for Will Anderson, I had some serious concerns about how the Texans' defense was going to look, but obviously they impressed all of us this year. Carter, I thought was a lock for this award. I really liked his college resume coming out of there and joining this really elite Philly line. Had a pretty good season, but not anywhere near the caliber of a defensive rookie of the year.
And then that Coach of the Year, oh man, I'm so ashamed of this pick. I had Arthur Smith.
Oh, yeah. Say that one more time.
I picked Arthur Smith.
Arthur. Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
This one is
the coach
just...
I'm going to hate so much.
Yeah, that was just an awesome, throughout the season, I forgot that you picked him. And it was just week after week, we would just be saying, why is he not using his, players? This is just awful coaching. And then, towards the end of the year, I just looking back and I see who did you pick for Coach of the Year? I see Arthur Smith. I'm just on the floor laughing at that one. Hopefully he has better fortunes in Pittsburgh. But I picked Mike Tomlin. I thought he did a pretty good job this year, but he certainly didn't do a bad job. But he's never won Coach of the Year before, and I thought this could be his year.
And then at Comeback Player of the Year, a pick that we both thought was pretty much a shoe-in. Not only getting some nomination points for it, though, with DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah, this was a shock. I really thought this was because I thought they were just going to approach this as look, this guy almost died. I mean, I guess you could say he did die on the field and it was resuscitated, brought back, and this is as sure as luck as any. But I think they made the right choice in going with okay, who actually played well this season? Because I think that's what it's about. Yeah, obviously it's a great comeback story for DeMar Hamlin, but we're talking about comeback player. And I probably would have went with Baker Mayfield, but Joe Flacco, I thought he it was kind of a fair shot for him as well.
Yeah. So in total for the awards, I had 30 points and Rob had 20. And now go on to the final aspect of our season predictions is the playoffs. This goes hand in hand with that simulator as the very end of it. So through my playoffs, I was able to get some points off of correctly getting to the divisional round. The Chiefs, Ravens, 49ers, Lions, and Bills. But the luck almost stopped right after that, as I was only able to get the Ravens and the Lions in the conference championship, and that's where my points end. So it's 40 points for me in the playoffs. But Rob, on the other hand, had some very good results in the postseason, as he correctly had in the divisional round the Bills, Chiefs, Lions, and 49ers. Then in the conference championship, the Chiefs and 49ers, and his Super Bowl, he had the teams correct with the Chiefs and 49ers. So a big round of applause for him for correctly predicting the Super Bowl teams at the start of the season. That's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that
was total of 70 points for him for the playoffs.
Yeah, this was something that saved my season predictions. I mean, they weren't bad, but this one, that Chiefs 49ers going all the way pushed it over the edge. And would have been even better if the 49ers had won it, as I predicted at the start of the year. But nonetheless, I'm pretty proud of that prediction.
Yeah. So now it is time to reveal our total points total for the year. Drum roll.
Here we go.
And the total points for the 2023-2024 season was Scott with a total of 289, and Rob, the winner, with a total of 292.
Really close. It's probably the closest it's ever been.
Yeah, this is the closest that we've done it in 4 years. We've done this now, and the highest total combined. So I think a pretty good year for us overall.
Very good year. I think you kind of dominated the AFC. I think I edged you out in the NFC and edged you out in the playoffs a little bit just to push it over the edge. Well, I think you did better in the awards. So I think we each had our categories. Like you had the AFC in the awards, and I had the NFC in the playoffs.
Yes. But yeah, definitely some good predictions on several different fronts.
Yeah, much better than last year, I think we could say.
Yeah. So, and I think this is overall just been a very successful season 2 for Mark My Words Football Podcast.
Yeah, it's been a very fun year. We really tried to put some work into this year, and it was a lot of schedule, a lot of wild things going on with our schedules, but we managed to record an episode every single week for you guys and getting in all our, predictions, all our bets, and all our analysis of all the games this year. We did them all. We made every single episode, and we definitely put a lot of effort into it, and we thank you all for, listening to this podcast and supporting it in the way that you do.
For sure.
And we look forward to an exciting season next year when we will take this back up in August with our season predictions. And we now look forward to hopefully an eventful offseason, and we're going to see what happens there. But at this time, we would like to say goodbye to all of you. We thank you again for your viewership. It is greatly appreciated. Feel free to like, follow, and subscribe. We are on all platforms. And this has been Mark My Words Football Podcast with Rob
and Scott.
And we are tuning